This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week, we've got four main reviews for you. We're going to kick off with Joel Kinnaman in The Silent Hour. Then we have a horror film called All My Friends Are Dead, #AMFAD. Then we have a biopic called Winner. And we're going to round off with a psychological thriller called The Imposters. Our short shot this week is a fan film, Batman Beyond Year One. And then we're going to round off even with our DTV throwback, Angel Town, starring Olivia Gruner. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is The Silent Hour. A detective with hearing loss and a deaf witness to a murder must lean on each other to outsmart killers they both can't hear coming when cornered in an abandoned apartment block. For me, this is one of the DTV films of the year. I absolutely loved this thing. I thought it had a smart script. It had great performances from both Joel Kinnaman and
Sandra May Frank.
Thank you. Yeah. As I look up my notes. I thought they worked really well together. We've also got Mark Strong in there as well. And it just all came together really well. Certain little things that you'd expect to happen, they sort of outwit, which I was quite impressed with. And I thought they made really good use of the building. I was just totally blown away by this little thing. Steve, how about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was cracking. Performances are great. The only thing is, it's a little bit cliched at the end, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
When someone turns out to be.
Oh, that was so obvious. It was so obvious. I mean? Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. You're sort of screaming at a certain character, going, "No, you fool!"
Yeah.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's the only. I'd say that's the only. Not even a bad thing, but you know it's coming. You know exactly from the start.
It's genre convention, isn't it? Basically, yeah.
But I say one thing that I was surprised at, which I thought was really good, is when the use of a certain drug, naloxone.
Mm-hmm.
Because my wife has to deal with that with like a certain part of her job and stuff. So I was asking her, like, is that how it happens and stuff? She's like, actually, it's pretty accurate, which I was very surprised at. Because some stuff like that, you can take it too far. But she said, no, it's actually pretty accurate how they do it. And I just thought it was interesting how they did that way and how they're going to set it up. To make it look like it was her and it all gone wrong and stuff like that. But no, I thought it was really good. I thought the performances were great. I mean, I do like Joel Kinnaman, apart from RoboCop. Well, that way it is. That's just the bad remakes that they do. And also Mekhi Phifer as well. I was surprised that it was him. I didn't recognise him. I've seen him for a bit, and he looks very, very different nowadays. But,
I didn't recognise him.
It's funny you should say that because both of you, because I felt exactly the same. Because I was watching it going, wow, this guy's really good. Credits come up and I was like, well, no wonder he reminds me of Mekhi Phifer. It is Mekhi Phifer. But he does look so different. I guess, we all remember him from like 20 years ago when he was starting out. And I haven't watched him in anything for a while. I know he's been working very steadily. But I thought, wow, this guy's really good. I thought he was a newcomer.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, it is. I thought it was very good. As people have been lamenting recently about, big budget films and everything, and there's a predilection at the moment of so many remakes and reboots and sequels and things. I think Disney recently have been going on about sort of doing live action versions of their films. We got there's a live action Moana coming out, and then we got Snow White and all this sort of stuff. And really, what we're crying out for is these sort of mid-budget action movies. That exist in the realm of reality. They're not sort of Fast and Furious stuff. They're not defying the laws of physics and gravity and stuff like that. But they're very solid, very well put together films. I mean, we've had two very good examples recently that we've covered. One was Rebel Ridge, and the other one was, funny enough, Jericho Ridge. Both excellent films. Not massive budgets or anything, but very, very, very solid films. And I think this sort of falls into that category. So very well made. Very, some thought put into the script. There's one bit I really did like was when they get hold of one of the bad guys' phones. So naturally, the bad guys try to ring the number. And the woman figures out what they're doing, even though she can't hear it. She figures it out. And go, quick, switch the phone off. Go to silent or whatever. I thought that was, a good little moment. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this. Rich, over to you. Any extra to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's directed by Brad Anderson, who made quite a big splash early in his career with. He did a film called Session 9, but then it was on the back of that he did a film with Christian Bale called The Machinist, which is the one he did. Christian Bale basically ate watermelon or whatever, went really, really humongously skinny. He lost so much weight, and then he basically bulked it all back on again to do Batman Begins. So he went from extremely emaciated to very muscular. But yeah, so he did The Machinist, but more recently did a film called Trans-Siberian and stuff after that. But then he kind of ended up in this DTV TV directing sort of period. He's done so much, loads of TV, some fairly low profile films like The Call with Halle Berry. And say lots of TV episodes, Treadstone recently, Peacemaker. So I hadn't actually seen any of his work really for quite a long time, but I thought this was very solid, really well crafted. It is incredibly conventional, very, very cliched. I was curious because Joel Kinnaman had come off of Silent Night, where he was playing where he was mute, and John Woo basically used that as an idea of like, okay, we're going to have barely any dialogue in the film. And I thought, are they going to do this one? It's called The Silent Hour, and I was kind of waiting for them to do the same thing, but like, okay, so he can't hear anything, so we're not going to hear anything, the audience. I thought they were going to do that. They don't go down that route. There is a point where the characters are both completely deaf. The protagonists have got to, like you said, they've got to support each other. But the film is still directed in a conventional fashion, although there is a lot more sign language and stuff like that, and lip reading and subtitles of that than would be in a conventional thriller. But apart from that, it's your bog standard protect the witness kind of story. It's all very conventional. Funnily enough, it reminded me of two Scott Adkins films we've had relatively recently.
Castle Falls.
Castle Falls came to mind immediately, but then I was thinking there's also quite a lot of. Again, this is not saying it's a ripoff because it's just convention stuff, but it was just a coincidence. I was just thinking about it. Take Cover recently, because if you remember in that one, they're stuck in the hotel, and he forms Scott Adkins' character forms this relationship, in the sort of bond, forms this bond with this young lady in that situation. And there's kind of a similar thing going on here. Again, very conventional kind of stuff. You get the big action scene, then you have the things are going to slow down and we're going to reveal something about ourselves bit, and then there's a big twist. There's a twist comes in and so whatever. So it's very formulaic, but I think the character relationship works really well. It's very convincing. I do like Joel Kinnaman more and more. The more I see him, I'm kind of a convert because I wasn't really struck on him originally. I think is he from Sweden or Denmark or something originally?
I think so, because he's in the TV version of Hannah as well, and he's really good. He's really good in that.
Yeah, and I know he did a a series of films. I think they were called Easy Money, which I've not caught
yeah.
up. I think that was before he went to America. But yeah, I do think his American accent's really good. He's very convincing. The whole Sandra May Frank is very good as the young lady. She is actually deaf, and that I think that really comes across. And it's a very good performance. You don't see deaf representation in many action films and stuff. I think the only thing I could think of was when Marlee Matlin did a film with Michael Dudikoff, but it wasn't an action film that I recall. It was more of a sort of drama or a thriller. Anyway, so the take cover Castle Falls thing, say, because of the sort of situation and that, I like that. But it's all it's got a bigger budget. This is an independently made film. You can tell that from all the logos and stuff. But there's a good amount of money that they've spent on it. And the set pieces are all, the action when it comes is all very well done. I mean, it starts out with a really good foot chase sequence, which kind of sets the scene for what's going to happen with our lead for the rest of the film. It was just that whole obvious twist thing, like I was saying earlier. It's like you're shouting at the TV going, come on. And it's like, then I was like, oh, how did they know where we are? And I'm like,
exactly.
Come on, man, you're a detective. Or whatever.
Literally minutes after, but never mind. The film, funny enough, I was reminded of. I did think of Castle Falls, but I actually, my mind actually went back a lot further to Walter Hill's Trespass.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I was thinking Mekhi Phifer and that was really reminding me of, and also a little bit of Judgment Night as well. But Ice Cube and Ice-T. Yeah, definitely. But the thing is, I haven't seen Trespass for so long that I can't remember. But it was the kind of abandoned location. A couple of characters getting, they're in over their head. It's a very different setup in that film. But it's the dynamic between, there's these two characters and they're trying to get away from, these people who are, coming after him in that abandoned. I mean, it's a good film, great film. Got to see it again. So definitely that one came to mind. So this sits alongside those very nicely. Yeah.
Now this is going straight to Amazon Prime, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not going. It's it's a Prime exclusive for the time being, as far as I'm aware.
It's on my list. It's one of those films that I would have loved to have had on a physical disc. So I will be keeping an eye out for in the future. But it's in one way it's great that it's there. More people are likely to watch it if it's free, I guess. So
and it's out by Signature Entertainment, who they mix up their distribution. So sometimes they'll put something out on VOD first. Sometimes they'll sell something to Amazon, Amazon first. But like, for example, there was the Russell Crowe film Sleeping Dogs. That was an Amazon exclusive. That's right. Now coming out on disc. That's right. Yeah. So there is a chance that if they, depending on, I guess, whether they rate it on how many views it gets on Amazon and stuff, I don't know. But there's a possibility that this could eventually get on the disc.
I hope so. Absolutely hope so, because it is a cracking film, and certainly would like to add it to my collection. Rather than
really good cinematography, very well shot film.
Yeah, very much so. On that note, how are we going to score it? Over to Steve.
I'll give it an 8.
And Rich?
Yeah, very good, tense thriller. I'll give it an 8.
Absolutely, I'm also giving it an 8. 3 8s, one of the highest scoring films we've had this year. Go check it out. It's on Amazon Prime as of next week. Our next film is All My Friends Are Dead. #AmFad. So, in this one, a group of college friends rent an Airbnb for the biggest music festival of the year. A weekend of partying quickly takes a bad turn as the group is murdered one by one. For the first 17, 18 minutes of this, God, did I feel old, and God, did this feel incredibly trivial and rubbish, and I really wanted to switch it off. Oh God, it's I just couldn't hack it for a long time until we get to a certain point and stuff starts happening, and then it sort of turns into, at least for a while, a sort of Saw knockoff. As these people are sort of put in these very ironic death traps one by one to be knocked off, at least up to a point, and then the killer just goes, "Oh fuck it, I'm just going to kill somebody with a sharpened dildo." So it took a while,
Well, even that's all tied in with the
it
theme. Isn't
is,
it?
yeah, no, but it kind of looked like the killer just ran out of steam, at first class. But this incredibly vapid group of people, even by normal slasher standards, this is a vapid group of people. I mourn for the next generation, basically. All these bloody millennials. I mean, it made me feel old. It really did.
So you say about the Saw thing. Did you know it's actually directed by one of the guys behind the Saw
Is it
series?
really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. As the film gets on, a certain sense of humor starts to develop as well. And there are some choice lines in this, I must admit. There was one hilarious bit after one of them dies and somebody finds his driving license and finds out he's 33 years old. And they were like, early 20s. It's like, oh, God. I thought that was hilarious. There's a couple of other bits like that dotted around. So, yeah, I think for me, once I get past that initial part, and I did start to enjoy it, when it gets to the end, I think there's just too many twists. I think it just keeps twisting and turning. Nothing sort of sits for very long, and then it's there's another. It turns out you stood on another rug which is being pulled from under you, and all this sort of stuff. Didn't need it, I don't think. Although, funny enough, I am on board for the sequel. So now they've sort of built it up.
You stayed through the many epilogues then.
I stayed up until that one at least. Where you get the.
I think that might have been the last one.
Yeah.
So there felt like there were a lot of epilogues. It was just going and going.
That's right. Anyway, Steve, what did you make of MFAB?
Yeah, it weren't. I don't think I liked it as much as you. I mean, like you say, every character. Excuse me. I hated every character. I really did. I couldn't. It's one of them where you don't feel any connection. I mean, maybe it is because we're older. I don't know. But it kind of reminded me of that. Do you remember the one where they're like most haunted and they're going through the house? I can't remember what it was called now.
Yeah.
And
they're filming themselves. Yeah, they all got their own cameras and they sort of film themselves in the house, but they're getting killed off one by one.
You're talking about #Chad gets the axe.
That's the one.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and it's just kind of reminded like that. Like you say, vapid, annoying characters that I didn't connect with, didn't give a shit about. And like you say, I mean, the first couple of rug pulls are completely obvious. I mean, whoever who the killer's going to be.
Yeah,
because it's the only other person that's actually been in the film.
Yeah.
It's obvious who it is.
It's so
and that didn't do much for me. And then, like you said, you've got the other rug pull and the other rug pull and the other. And you're like, right, just get it over with now. I can't be asked anymore. And it also can remind me of. Do you remember Unfriended?
Yeah. There's definitely a touch of that.
Definitely, with the supposed first victim, shall we say, that kind of thing. And it just wasn't very original and annoying and just didn't care about anyone. And that, to me, isn't a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been exposed to much of TikTok or things like that, so a lot of the sort of stuff they were sort of going for, just I'm thinking, is it really that important? But maybe to some people it is, especially but in their 20s, is it still important? It seems a bit weird.
Even 30s.
True. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rich, do you see this one?
Yes, I did.
Right, and what do you make of it?
I've had quite high hopes because it's directed by Marcus Dunstan, who is, like I was saying a minute ago, behind some of the. He was a co-writer on several of the Saw sequels, and he made the films. He directed The Collector and The Collection,
I like
especially,
those. Yeah, both of those are really good.
and another one called The Neighbor, and a couple
That
of
was
other
a good
things.
one. Yeah, it's William. Oh God, what's the name of the guy?
Oh, I'm not
Actor.
sure.
You know the guy who plays the bank manager at the beginning of The Dark Knight.
Oh, William Fickner.
Fickner, that was it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's in that. It is a really good film. Yeah, I highly recommend it. So yeah, so the guy's got a good pedigree.
Yes. I just think I don't know. There was a war. I mean, the budget's not massive, so that might be part of it. I'm not sure, but it does feel. I was getting strong bodies vibes off of it, and it was like it felt like it's trying to ride the coattails of the A24 thing or something, because the obnoxious bunch of youngsters with a very casual relationship with drugs and stuff, and that was very, and the neon colors and all that sort of thing was very reminiscent of Bodies, which I didn't really like, that film, to be fair. That wasn't really a slasher movie. This is much more of a straightforward slasher movie. But it's kind of it's a horror comedy, but the comedy is not really foregrounded. It's kind of it's there, and it comes out at little moments, like you were saying with the driving license bit and stuff like that. It's much more to do with the playful editing. There's lots of like little sort of editing tricks and stuff that they do. So they're trying some interesting stuff in there. Again, don't really like the characters. The whole, very much emphasizing social media and their influencers and all that kind of stuff. So it's very current. We've got Jojo Siva, or Siwa, I think it's Siva, who is like former children's. I guess she's like kind of like a Miley Cyrus type, but she seems to have quite an established fan base. She's credited. She's like top build, like second build, but she's not in it very much. Let's just say that. And then they kind of pepper the film with little shots of her and stuff. Anyway, so fans of her might be a little bit disappointed that she's not like a main character. I didn't know who she was, so I just kind of guessed when I was watching, having read that criticism. The title comes in about 20 minutes, which is something we've seen in a few films. Actually, I was watching a YouTube video the other day about this guy saying how much he loves when the title comes in really late on a film.
All right.
I mean, we saw it recently with we went to see Kill at the cinema, didn't we? And the title
30
comes in.
minutes in or something.
It's about halfway through the film, about 45 minutes in, and other titles come in even later than that, unbelievably. But like in terms of slashers, like Friday the 13th, the remake, I think the title came in at about 20. Actually, the title comes on at the beginning of the film, then the title comes on again, and the credits start in this one. So we see the title twice. Anyway, first thing not first thing, but one of the things I wanted to mention was the title is #AmFad, All My Friends Are Dead, and I wondered if it was a remake of a Polish film called All My Friends Are Dead, which is on Netflix. It's got nothing to do with that; they're completely separate. But what I would say is, go and watch All My Friends Are Dead on Netflix. It's a really good, it's a really well-made, very slick-looking, American, very much riffing on American slasher movies, ripping them off kind of thing. That is a good, fun slasher comedy. I would go check that out. This one is not quite at that level, I don't think. I think there's some interesting ideas and stuff in it, but it was a bit derivative. The theme of the killer is like 7 deadly sins, and they give David Fincher 7 a name check and stuff. But it's got some interesting bits about it, but I was overall not particularly loving it. Kind of just wanted to sort of move on, and I love slasher movies, so it's always nice to see a new one. But so coming from Marcus Dunstan, it just didn't quite hit the heights that I was hoping for.
It's annoying. I mean, the whole gimmick bit, the ironic death sort of element, the sort of ironic death traps that they set up. That sort of thing just takes me out of the movie, because I'm thinking, Oh, you've got a degree in sort of structural engineering, then, or welding or something to sort of put these things together. But yeah, it seemed a bit sort of strange, I must admit.
It was a bit more like, we watched that. I think it was Dark Game or Dark
Yes.
Game or something recently. It was more that level than like a Saw level, which it was.
Yeah, it wasn't sort of full on, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's quite ingenious that you sort of put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the gore is there. I mean, there's a few
There is
scenes
some,
that
yeah,
are
definitely
very
some gore.
gory.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say
Okay.
this was one of the lower, one of my least. I mean, I watched another film called Margot, which is about a bunch of obnoxious young
Is
people.
that the one with the AI house?
The smart house thing. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
terrible. It's really, really bad because it's just like, oh, come on. This house is like creating VR environments and all that sort of thing. And it's using 3D printing to create like an entire accurate room and accessories. And so anyway, that wound me up, that film. But the, yeah, so I put that more along this lines. But yeah, go and see that Polish one, I would say.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, we found something to recommend.
Yeah.
I think if you're a lot younger than us, and many of you are, you will probably get something more out of this than we did. I think collectively we're pretty much bored out of our skulls for the first 18 minutes while people just sort of ran around doing their TikTok thing and all the rest of it.
There's a lot of exposition and stuff at the start, isn't there, as well? It's like really loads of it. And then like lots of setup and then lots of epilogue. So it's like
lots
so
of
much.
epilogues and in the middle bit, which is somewhere between Saw and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there was one bit I want to mention, which is, I say, to do with the playful editing. There's a nice scene where they intercut between a sexual encounter and some bodies being caressed and stuff, with the killer caressing a blade and stuff, which I thought was a nice contrast. I thought that was quite fun.
I'll tell you, actually, there was one really interesting bit, which is something I haven't seen much. During sort of the main fight at the end, there's a bit where the killer he's almost sort of stabbing the girl, and the tip of the blade rakes against her teeth.
Oh yeah,
oh, God, yeah. That went right for me.
I'm sure that's going to upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. Scores on the doors. How are you going to score this one, Steve?
I'll give it a 6.
And Rich?
I think 6 is reasonable. Go see Chad Gets the Axe, I would say, if you want to see like social media-ish sort of slasher fun. I would recommend that one. I'd say as well as that Polish film. But yeah, this one's just it's a 6. It's okay.
Yeah, Chad Gets the Axe, I think is a little bit better. A 6 is fine with me. As I said, it starts off really slow. It does perk up, and there's a nice setup for a sequel. So if they get the chance, I would like to see it. I must admit.
Do you think that was a joke though, or do you think they meant it?
Well, if it
could go either way, couldn't it?
It could go either way. Is it a joke? In which case, fine, because then it reminds me of something like, you might be the killer kind of thing.
Yeah, that was another really good one. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Or maybe they are sort of pushing for to continue. But there you go. So there we go. 3 6s for All My Friends Are Dead. #AmpAd. Go check it out. Our next film is Winner. Reality Winner is a brilliant young misfit from Texas who finds her morals challenged when serving in the US Air Force and working as an NSA contractor. So this is based on the real life story of Reality Winner, who was convicted of leaking classified documents to the media. She ended up with a bigger sentence that anyone's got for this particular crime, felony, misdemeanor, whatever you want to call it. She was pretty much shafted by the publication, the media outlet that she approached, because when they received the documents, they sent it straight to the NSA to verify it, and they figured out who it could have come from. So thanks, guys. Yeah, the tone of this is kind of reminds me a bit of Pain and Gain.
The Michael Bay
Bay's
film. Yeah.
in that it's like, can you believe this really happened? You know, there's that sort of element to it. There's that sort, almost like a playful sort of tone to some of it. I think this is partly because of the way that reality sort of like, she keeps talking back to her superiors and things like that. You know, she's very clever, very very witty, and able to think on her feet a lot. So and she's narrating the story as well. So we get a lot of her character in it, and it does sort of like it's sort of like a skewed reality to a certain degree, which makes it a bit breezy. I think I thought overall it was okay. Steve, what did you make of Winner?
Yeah, it is tonally a bit all over the place, I thought, because it, it is dealing with serious, fact that happened at serious time, and like you say, it's quite quirky, quite light and breezy. You get mum and dad who just
Broke up there, mate.
Sorry, Zach Galifianakis. I think.
Go back a bit.
Yeah. I mean, like seeing a parent.
We lost you after mum and dad.
Right, like mum and dad, Connie Britton, Zach Galifianakis, which I was surprised at him because it's the most straight and serious that I've seen him. Rather than being crazy and zany and stuff like that. And I think he works really well. Now there was another film based on this. I think it's called Reality.
Yes, with Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney, yeah. Now that's more about her arrest, if I remember rightly. I've not seen it yet, but it's more like when she was, arrested. It's all based on the transcripts from that.
And I think it's a more serious film than this one.
Yeah, so I won't mind seeing that as well, just to contrast along with this.
Yeah, I was hoping to watch both. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch either of them this week, so I'm at your mercy to tell me what they are. So, but I do know this is from the director of The Spy Who Dumped Me, which I actually liked a lot more than I was expecting to. Had some really good action.
Yeah, I really like that actually. Yeah, as you said, I thought that was going to be a sort of throwaway sort of silly comedy sort of thing, but actually that had some pretty decent action in amongst it. But anyway, yeah, back to this. Yeah, it's solid enough.
Yeah, it's just a bit too frothy for my liking in a way.
Yeah, which maybe it needs to be in order to be to be palatable entertainment. To get more people to watch it. I think rather than sort of have it as a sort of very po-faced. If you go back to things like Meryl Streep in things like Silkwood, this would be totally completely different. But. Yeah, there you go.
Poster, guys. The poster was giving me vibes of a film we covered a while back called Marmalade with Joe Keery.
Yes.
Which was quite a colourful, unreliable narrator kind of thing. And it was just I was looking at the poster. I was just thinking, this is not like it looks like. It's very much selling the comedy rather than this sort of real life, true life kind of thing. There's a lot of. Is that fair to say? So it's very sort of heightened reality kind of thing?
Or? No, it's not. But her narration is, her narration is quite sort of.
She's very precocious.
Yeah,
and that's where a lot of the humour comes from. To be fair.
Yeah,
and it's just a little bit uneven to me. The tone of it, because it is, it's a very serious thing, and then it's lightened up with her attitude and what she's saying and stuff. So it just goes slightly off kilter for me. It's a bit too quirky, if you know what I mean. Trying to be quirky.
Indeed. Yeah. But anyway, how are you going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it a 7.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 6. So a 7 and a 6 for Winner. Go check it out. Our next film is The Imposters. Maya meets the enigmatic Hattie. They fall for each other, but soon things begin to unravel as Maya realizes that Hattie has ulterior motives and everything is not as it seems. Okay, so This is from director Simon Winter. Nicholas Winter, who we've covered before with the film Warblade, and I've covered his Robin Hood film before. You know, someone who knows how to make good use of a sort of low budget and locations and things. This one is a bit different. You know, it's set in the modern day. Luckily, it's not set in Malta, but it could have been. It's certainly set on the continent. Mostly,
Spain.
Is it in Spain? Yeah,
I think it's Spain. Yeah.
yeah. So we start off with Maya basically getting dumped by her previous girlfriend Anna because of some dodgy goings on. Maya is a private tutor, and one of her previous students had a big crush on her, and Anna suspects that something was actually going on between them. Then Maya meets Hattie. Things get interesting when Hattie invites her to Spain for the weekend. So it's like, come on, let's go away. And unfortunately, then that's when things start getting a bit weird. You know, sort of Hattie's checking her phone and this sort of stuff, and she ends up basically being almost held captive by Hattie, who seems, as the blurb says, has ulterior motives. I think there is a bit of a unfortunate history with the portrayal of sort of lesbians in particular in film, in that they're either usually psychotic or a victim or a killer, or sometimes a mixture of the three. And unfortunately, this film isn't really sort of doing itself any favors by just, you know, continuing in that vein. But having said that, I thought it was relatively interesting. You know, the sort of captive location and all that, and sort of a few sort of twists and turns. It does build up to a nice sort of confrontation at the end, and even then, a bit like the film we were just discussing earlier, the Amphab. You know, there are a few sort of twists and then more twists to go before we get to the end. But anyway, Steve, what did you make of the Imposters?
No, it weren't for me. I didn't like it, to be fair. I thought it was far too slow. I mean, it takes, 45 minutes to an hour before we even find out what's gone on or what's supposedly gone on. I think it just lays too much groundwork. You know what I mean? Like, getting her over to Spain and the relationship blossoming. Fair enough, I get that, but it's too dragged out. It's far too dragged out.
Here's something you can help me with, because I wasn't sure if this is how did they get Anna to Spain?
Right, she got her there because she met her at the audition, didn't she?
Right.
Originally. And then
so she was playing both of them.
Yeah, basically. So then when she's got the other one there, she phones her up and says, "I want you to come out. We're doing this shoot." And it's like £500 for 3 weeks or something, or a week for 3 weeks. But she's like, "Oh, is this a suspect?" She's like, "No, it's all above board. I'll send you the £500 now." And then she comes out and then she gets her there. So
there we have it. Yeah.
But I just thought it was too long in the tooth, and it's one of them where no one's innocent, and you know what's going on, you know what's happening, and I just thought it didn't bring any shocks or any big shakes. I thought it looked beautiful. To be fair, I mean, the Spanish vistas and in Spain, I thought it looked really well. Even the scenes in the woods or the park in London, I thought it looked great, but I just thought it was very flat, and there was nothing to grab my attention really. You know, even when she's like being, where the ulterior motive comes to pass and she's getting threatened and stuff like that, it just didn't. I wasn't bothered. Didn't really care, and it's just very, very flat.
No, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than you did, for the sounds of it. But yeah, I think it is a bit sort of too long for its own good, for sure. But I did kind of like it. I lost the bit where the suddenly Anna appears in the trunk. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did she get there? But anyway, other than that, okay, how are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 5.
I'm going to be a bit more generous. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. So a 5 and a 6 for the Imposters. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Batman Beyond Year One. This is a live action fan film based on the animated series Batman Beyond. Terry McGill meets a young woman who may not be what she appears. An interesting brief setup. I was surprised this was live action. You know, I must admit, in my head, I was kind of thinking, have they done like an animated fan film? But I thought this was very good. I thought the the backdrop and everything they come up with is really good. The guy playing Terry McGill, I thought he looked the part. We got Batman or Bruce Wayne on the comms. I thought the bat suit was brilliant. I thought the production design there was absolutely superb. But it very quickly sort of boils down to a fight film. Relatively decent because it uses the powers of the suit and things like that. But that's basically what we have here. It's another fight movie. Steve, what did you make of Batman Beyond Year One?
Yeah, I thought it was done really well. To be fair, I mean the backgrounds of like Neo Gotham were rendered really, really well. It looked great. But like I said, it is just another fight scene short film. But I thought the way they used the suit was really good. In the fight, especially like the boosters
the boosters and that, yeah.
I thought that choreographed in really, really well, and yeah, it's just one end. Decent little fight scene film, but you got the little bit of the beginning and the end, just framing it nicely and just giving it a little bit of spin.
Yeah,
I thought the suit was great. The suit looks really good.
For from a sort of proof of concept point of view, I think they're onto something.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, I think there is a plan to make a Batman Beyond movie. James Gunn,
should.
I think he's doing it in this new DCEU. I don't know where they're up to, but that's one of the rumors going around.
Yeah. Rich, can you sort of tell us a bit more about this one?
So this one's it was a Kickstarter, so it was crowdfunded fan film project. Not an uncommon situation these days. There's quite a lot of that happening now. People willing to sort of put their money down to sort of see concepts brought to life. This is one of those cases where it's something that, because you get two different kinds of fan films, I guess. You get the ones which are what Hollywood could do, what you would expect. They haven't made it, so we want to make it. Or you get the ones that say, well, Hollywood's never going to do this, so we're going to have a go. Which so one example of that is, I think it's called Halloween Night with a K, which is coming out soon, which is Batman versus Michael Myers. Hollywood's never going to do that, so you get these other things. So this one is in the other camp of a bit like the Mortal Kombat series. There was the Mortal Kombat short film, which was then spun off into a web series, which did really well, and then that gathered momentum, and eventually we got the big budget, more reboot Mortal Kombat movies. So this is kind of here's what we can do. We want to do more of this. It's very much like you say, it's a proof of concept, so it introduces things, it doesn't really resolve them, and it is framed. They do take the fight film kind of approach, where it's but instead of the fight being the concluding part, it is, like you say, the freight. It's the centerpiece. So they introduce some characters. They go off and do quite an extended fight scene, which is choreographed by Jay Kwan, who's one of the best guys around. You go and check, he's got absolutely tons of mainstream film experience and loads of shorts and stuff that he directs and stuff. Go and look on YouTube, tons of stuff. We've covered some of his stuff. Terrell Bullock's one of the guys. I think he's in the Batman suit at least some of the time. He was in he was the lead in Twisting Tiger, and he's got loads of action and stunt experience as well. So there's lots of really good people. Ryan Potter, who plays Terry McGinnis, he was on Titans playing Gar Logan, also known as Beast Boy. So he did that for.
That's where I know him from.
About 4 years. I thought what's her name? Elizabeth Hahn was really captivating as kind of his love interest, who we see at the beginning and the end. And maybe because they don't really spell it out, but maybe maybe she appeared somewhere else in the film.
Yeah.
But
could be.
Yeah, could be. But yeah, she was really good. It's the visual effects you mentioned. Well, the director Michael Yu is a visual effects guy. He's worked on lots of stuff, including films like Night Swim recently. So he's very much sort of a visual effects expert. But yes, he managed to pull together a great team, and the costume, again, you guys emphasized it already. That is a key ingredient here. That so many of these fan films they don't manage to get the money enough to do a really good Batman costume or Batman adjacent or whatever it is costume. And I think this, we've seen films like the Batman '89 film, The Oath, which had a really decent suit in it and stuff. And I think this one, it's got a different challenge to it, because it's kind of trying to make a suit that nobody's done in live action before, or at least not many people have. There might be some other Batman Beyond films floating around, but I haven't seen them. And this is certainly the most high profile. And I think they know that some of these things they make or break on the quality of that sort of stuff. So it's like, you got to put the money in the suit, you got to put the money in the action, and you got to put the money in the sort of the world building. And this film doesn't have a lot of money, so it's all green screen, which is much more affordable kind of thing to do these days. So they managed to give it that kind of Blade Runner-ish kind of look, which works. They don't over egg it. They do go, when the action scene kicks off, it is that kind of, okay, we're going to go and do this in a warehouse. Yeah. So, manage the budget. But nothing's really resolved. There's some inkling and, some hints of where the story's going to go. And I haven't looked at the numbers of what it's had since it was released, which was quite recently. But I'm sure the views are going to be great. And I'm hoping that they manage to either make a web series, make a second, installment, or, get enough interest to maybe do something a bit more feature length, get kind of, but they're going to need a lot of money to do it. So so fingers crossed for them.
Absolutely. Okay, so we don't score the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. You'll find a link to this in the footnotes below. Please check it out. Also check out their other works as well. Our DTV throwback this week is Angel Town. Jacques Montaigne arrives at UCLA to participate in its Olympic scholarship, but is met with a prejudiced dean, feral kids, and a murderous street gang in his new neighborhood. Luckily, he knows martial arts and is willing to open a big, generous can of whoop-ass to help out his landlady and their son, and her son, even. So I chose this one. I remember seeing it in the video stores way back when, in the rental shops. But I wasn't really a fan of Olivia Gruner back then, and this one didn't really appeal. And even when I watched the trailer for it, but in preparation for this episode, I still wasn't 100% on board. But I thought, well, what the hell? Let's cover it anyway. Little did I know how awesome this would end up being. It is a crazy, crazy film. At its heart, it's Death Wish 3. Is it Death Wish 3?
Yeah.
It is Death Wish 3, basically. But there's just so many wild touches to it. Like, the film opens with him going to see his dad's grave in this cemetery in Paris, and his ex-girlfriend comes running up. Go on.
No, I was saying quite obviously not Paris.
Obviously
when you
not
see
Paris.
the gravestones.
Yeah, all written in English. Yeah, that's the one. But his ex-girlfriend, wearing this long, incredibly expensive-looking fur coat, comes running up to him and basically goes, "How could you leave this behind?" and so takes it off.
She's naked underneath, right?
Totally naked underneath, and then they're having sex on the gravestones, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And then when he does get to when he does get to LA, and he ends up in this sort of pretty shitty neighborhood, and being harassed by all these sort of local Hispanic sort of gangsters and stuff. And there's this gang of kids beating up this little kid. And he sort of manages to get them out of him. And this little kid turns to him and goes, "What do you want, a fucking medal?" And sort of just runs away. Oh, it's genius. Yeah, there's lovely little touches like that. The violence is, very heightened for this sort of film. I mean, the amount of, broken arms and dislocated collarbones that must be going on. It's surprising. Everyone just sort of shrugs it off, and the next day they're attacking him again.
And this is one of those films where it's, oh, by the way, he's a champion kickboxer.
Oh God!
They mention it
Not
late
only
into the film. It's like half an
yeah,
hour in
yeah,
or whatever.
he's
By the way,
yeah. Well, not only that, but also there's a whole thing about him upsetting some, I don't know, some gambling circuit or something back in Paris, and his dad being murdered, and his grandmother raising him at some point, and it's almost like a scene out of like a Hitchcock film.
Yeah.
Where, or Psycho, where he's being berated by this wizened old lady. Yeah, you'll never amount to anything. All this sort of shit. It was crazy. Yeah, tons and tons of distraction going on. Lots of really interesting moments. I had a ball with this, I must admit. Steve, what did you make of Angel Town?
Right. It's not good.
No. Oh no.
But it's entertaining.
Yeah. By no means is this a good film. But
no.
But at the same time, it's a blast, and it's a Friday night beer and pizza movie. Is what it is. To be shared with friends.
It's definitely a 5-beer movie at least. Yeah. I mean, it's the Latino gangster characters.
Mm.
If that was written now, they'd be cancelled. I'm not being honest. Every single sentence that they utter either ends with Hefe
or Holmes,
or something like that, and it's just none of the characters are particularly well written or anything like that. But yeah, it is what it is. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's stupid, but it is fun. I mean, he does try and get a bit deeper. With like the kids. Dad was trying to bring all the gangs together and make the neighborhood nice, but oh no, they shot him and killed him.
Yeah.
So now they're trying to get the son in the gang. The one that killed his dad. They're trying to get his son in that gang, and he's crazy. He's just literally walking. About 3 of them walking around with Uzis. Just in the street. No distractions, nothing. Just Uzi in the hand. Oh, yeah, all right, guys. Yeah. And
his silver-plated Uzi.
I mean, the bit where his grandma dies and they don't tell him for like 4 days. Like, what?
Yeah. But there's other good bits which I like. Just like because he gets his friend to look after the kid for a bit. And then he turns around to him and goes, "For fuck's sake, you got to tell his mum where he is. Otherwise, I'm going to get done for kidnapping a minor." I quite like that they actually sort of thought about that, rather than just sort of doing it. So this is directed by Eric Carson, who has done a few other films. He did a Chuck Norris film called The Octagon back in 1980. He helped produce Lionheart, aka AWOL, one of Jean-Claude's most loved films.
He also directed
he has got a good
Black
sort of
Eagle.
pedigree for this sort of thing. All right, well, one of his first ones, yeah.
Well, apparently it's supposed to be Van Damme who's in this. They couldn't get him.
All right, okay, that makes sense as well. Yeah, you could
it's a very post-Van. It's a very Van Damme prototype kind of film, isn't it? So the set. This was the origin of. This was the starting point where they were all trying to write. We want to make a Van Damme film, but we don't have Van Damme. Who could we use? So this was Gruner's first film. He's a fellow French speaker, and I guess he was probably one of the closest that they could get at the time. And I don't think he did too badly for his first film, really.
No, not at all. Sorry, was this Gruner's first film?
I'm pretty sure it was. Do correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Okay.
If you're looking him up, but
I am.
I remember. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Mike, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I lost all that.
That's-
I lost all of that, unfortunately.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's my computer. I think it's overloaded with stuff.
So
right, Gruner.
yeah. So the bit like yourself, Mike, I hadn't seen this one because although it caught my eye in the video store and stuff, it's just one I never got around to seeing. And even though I became a big Gruner fan in the mid-90s, I still never saw it. So I watched it this year for the first time a few months ago when I did I had a conversation with Matt Poirier over the Director Video Connoisseur podcast, DTVC podcast, which was back in June. Episode 163, if you want to look it up. He and I do a deep dive into the film on that episode, so I'll restrict my comments here. But I quite enjoyed it. It's very much of the time. It's that kind of guy comes into town, mixes it up a bit and takes down the. But the thing that I thought was interesting about it was he kind of aggravates the situation quite a lot because he's very much like he's a very boisterous character and he's just like, yeah, come on then, kind of.
Yeah.
I'll say.
Mate tells him at one point, going, you're just making things worse.
Yeah.
And in that regard, it reminded him Sean Connery and was it Robert Shaw playing the sheriff of Nottingham, and they're basically just using the locals as cannon fodder for their own agenda, for their own sort of I forgot the word I'm looking for. No, never mind.
Well,
in
this one, even Jacques disappears like for quite a while towards the end, and the kid and his mum and that are kind of on their own. And then there's the guy, the guy who can't walk, who lives next door, and he's really frustrated and he wants to get stuck in, and he drags himself like over to the house, and he's there with his gun and stuff. And that's probably one of the elements that's most like Death Wish 3 for me. Brought that to mind, but I think it definitely fits in somewhere between like Death Wish 3 and like Blood and Bone, the Michael Jai White film.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one to check out.
The oh no, I lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, breakout character. That was it. There's one bit. There's a car chase about 2/3 of the way in the film, and they end up in this sort of docking area. Sort of all these sort of dock workers sort of loading stuff up, and they get all really pissed off for these gangbangers sort of shooting wildly at everyone. And there's these two guys sat in a lorry. And as one of them walks over, he just like opens the door and slams it in the guy's face. And then that's all you see of him. But they're like, yeah, thanks very much. Thought it was a good little moment. Yeah. So this is definitely fun. It's not a great film, at all. It's not going to be up there with like the best of like Scott Adkins or anything like that. But it does not disappoint. It completely entertains. Now, Rich, what was the other? We've covered a couple of Olivier Gruner ones. Obviously, we did Nemesis at some point, but there was the other one.
Did we do The Mercenary with John Ritter?
Yes, I believe we did. But
Automatic. There was a sci-fi Automatic, Nemesis. I think we've done a few. Savage is one of my favorites.
Is Savage the one where he sort of becomes
Tarzan, basically?
Tarzan, that was it.
Like Tarzan Terminator, basically.
Basically, yeah, that was an interesting one. That was actually a really good performance by him. Good acting performance on top of everything else. So yeah, we've covered a fair smattering of Gruner in the past. I'm sure that there's other films that we should, like Mars. I think we should do Mars at some point.
Yeah, he was dubbed in that one, which was I remember being very disappointed about that when it came out. But the to go over at Comeuppance Reviews, they've done a couple of podcasts where they talked to a guy called Richard Pearce, who worked with, who was a writer of one of Gruner's directorial efforts, more recent, very low budget things, and he's got crazy stories about working with Gruner. And he said Gruner's not a nice guy, doesn't like him very much. He like really messed him around a lot and stuff. And some really interesting stories. So go and check out the Comeuppance Reviews episode. Go look those up because they're very entertaining. I I really liked Gruner back in the day. There's quite a few films that he's made more recently that are quite hard to find because they ended up being really low budget and not finding much distribution. And Sector 4 is the specific film that those conversations are relating to. But he was in there's a Polish film I had a lot of trouble finding because he had an appearance in or something, and that is on Prime, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet because it finally just sort of turned up. But yeah, I think Gruner had a moment in DTV action in the mid-90s, and he was one of the best. And this was kind of the start of that, and I'm glad to have finally caught up with it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, I ended up with a copy of Savate at one point on DVD.
Oh, that's the Isaac Florentine.
Isaac Florentine one,
yeah, because it's confusing because he made Savat and Savage. It's like basically the same title. You're very easily confused.
Absolutely. So there we have it. Yeah, we all enjoyed Angel Town. It's not, it's the sort of enjoyment that you get out of, Samurai Cop or Samurai Cop 2.
Yeah,
basically, but it is profoundly entertaining. That loads and loads of fight scenes, and it is good to see a bit of blood mixed in with that as well. It's not just like people walking away from a sort of like real harsh beatdown with looking like they just sort of come out of the shower kind of thing. There's this little bit of a good bit of blood and not exactly guts, but certainly some red stuff been flowing around. So yeah, good fun.
The director, Mike, the director Eric Carson did another film which I'd never heard of before, but it's called Opposing Force with Tom Skerritt. Did you ever see that one?
I haven't seen that one. No.
I'm curious. It's from 1986, so I'd like to check that out at some point.
Actually, I think it's I think I've seen some people talking about that one recently online for some reason. I think
got Richard Roundtree in it and stuff. So I'd be definitely. I mean, Tom Skerritt as an action guy, I'd be quite curious.
That would be interesting to see.
That out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Eric Carson, what interesting
so there you have it.
collection of films he's done.
Yeah, totally agree. And there you have it. That is the end of this week's show. Thank you for listening. Please check out some of the films, especially The Silent Hour and even Amphab. I think worth a look, depending on your age. And definitely, if you're checking out The Silent Hour and you got Prime, why not take a look at Angel Town as well? Because that's sitting on Prime in a very decent print as well. Compared to the quality of the trailer I found on YouTube, the quality of the picture on Prime is a lot better. Don't forget to check us out on Blue Sky.
We are now on Blue Sky.
We're now on Blue Sky, as well as X and Facebook at the DTV Digest and at the Short Shots. So yeah, please check us out, give us a like and all the rest of it. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.